I was standing in the living room of the house I'd grown up in when my older sister Rachel told me I had 2 weeks to get out. My parents had been gone for less than a month. The funeral flowers were still dying in vases around the house. And she was already changing the locks. I'm Lucy, and I'm 24 years old. Rachel is 28. We grew up in the same house, shared the same bedrooms over the years, sat at the same dinner table. But according to her, none of that mattered anymore. Because I was adopted, and she wasn't. And now that our parents were gone, she was making sure I knew exactly what that meant. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about family, belonging, and the price of staying silent for too long. Stay until the end to hear how karma caught up with all of them. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and I have more stories like this coming your way. Let me go back to the beginning so you understand how we got here. I was adopted when I was 3 years old. I don't remember my biological parents. I don't remember the adoption process. My first real memories are of this house, of my dad reading to me before bed, of my mom teaching me how to bake cookies in our kitchen. They were my parents. This was my home. That's all I knew. Rachel was 7 when I arrived. Old enough to remember what it was like before I came. Old enough to resent the change. My dad, Stephen, was in his mid-60s when he passed. My mom, Marcia, was in her mid-50s. They died in a car accident on a rainy Tuesday evening. They were driving home from dinner. A truck ran a red light. They didn't suffer, the doctors said. They were gone before the ambulance arrived. I got the call at work. I remember my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I drove straight to the hospital. Rachel was already there. She was crying in the waiting room, surrounded by nurses and family friends. When I walked in, she looked at me like I was intruding. That should have been my first clue. Growing up, there was always a difference in how our parents treated us. It was subtle at first. Small things. Rachel got the bigger bedroom when we moved to a new house. Rachel got to choose where we went on vacation. Rachel's opinions carried more weight at the dinner table. When I was 12, I wanted to join the school soccer team. I was excited about it. I'd been practicing in the backyard for weeks. But Rachel had just started community college, and she was struggling with the transition. She was stressed, emotional, crying every night. So my parents told me it wasn't a good time to add soccer to the schedule. They needed to focus on helping Rachel adjust. I never joined that team. When I was 16, I got accepted into a summer art program. It was competitive. Only 20 students from across the state were chosen. I was so proud. But that same week, Rachel broke up with her boyfriend of 2 years. She was devastated. She didn't want to be alone in the house while I was gone for 6 weeks. So my parents sat me down and explained that family comes first. Rachel needed me. I could do art programs later. I turned down the acceptance. When I was 18, I got a scholarship to a university 3 hours away. It wasn't a full ride, but it was significant. I was excited to go, to start fresh, to build something of my own. But Rachel had just lost her job. She was moving back home. My parents said it would be better if I stayed local, went to community college, helped out around the house while Rachel got back on her feet. They said we could revisit university later. I stayed. I watched this pattern repeat itself over and over, year after year. Every time I had something good happen, something that was mine, Rachel would have a crisis. And my parents would choose her crisis over my milestone. I told myself it was normal. I told myself they loved us both. I told myself it would balance out eventually. It never did. After my parents died, there was the funeral to plan. Rachel took charge immediately. She picked the flowers, the music, the readings. She didn't ask for my input. When I tried to suggest something, a song our dad loved, a poem our mom used to read to us, Rachel cut me off. "I'm handling this," she said. "You don't need to worry about it." I thought she was just trying to stay busy, to distract herself from the grief. So I stepped back. The funeral was beautiful, I'll give her that. The church was full. People spoke about how kind our parents were, how generous, how much they loved their family. I sat in the front row next to Rachel and cried until I couldn't breathe. After the service, people came back to the house. There was food, coffee, stories. Rachel played the grieving daughter perfectly. She accepted condolences with grace. She hugged relatives. She thanked people for coming. I was in the kitchen washing dishes when my aunt, my dad's sister, found me. "How are you holding up, Lucy?" she asked. I told her I was managing. I asked if she needed anything. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "Your father loved you very much. You know that, right?" The way she said it made something twist in my chest. Like she was trying to tell me something without saying it outright. I nodded. I didn't trust my voice. She squeezed my hand and walked away. The next few days were a blur. There were papers to sign, accounts to close, belongings to sort through. Rachel handled most of it. She told me she'd take care of everything. She said I should take time to grieve. I thought she was being kind. 2 weeks after the funeral, Rachel called me into the living room. She was sitting on the couch with a folder of documents in her lap. She looked calm, composed, almost businesslike. "We need to talk about the house," she said. I sat down across from her. I assumed we were going to discuss what to do with it. Whether to sell it, rent it, keep it. I thought we'd make the decision together. "Mom and Dad left the house to me," Rachel said. I stared at her. "What?" "The house is mine," she repeated. "It's in the will. Everything is in the will." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "I don't understand." Rachel opened the folder and pulled out a stack of papers. She slid them across the coffee table toward me. "You can read it yourself. They left the house to me. The savings accounts, the investment portfolio, the life insurance, everything goes to me." My hands were shaking as I picked up the papers. I scanned the words, but they didn't make sense. I saw Rachel's name over and over. I saw itemized lists of assets, properties, accounts. I saw my parents' signatures at the bottom. I didn't see my name anywhere. "There has to be a mistake," I said. Rachel shook her head. "There's no mistake. They made their decision." "But why?" My voice cracked. "Why would they do this?" Rachel leaned back against the couch. She looked at me with something close to pity. "Lucy, you have to understand. You're not really their daughter. Not biologically. They loved you, I'm sure they did, but at the end of the day, I'm their blood. I'm their legacy. It makes sense that they'd leave everything to me." I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. "That's not true," I said. "They never treated me like that. They never made me feel like I wasn't part of this family." Rachel's expression didn't change. Maybe they didn't say it out loud. But they knew the difference. And so did I. I stood up. I couldn't sit still. I paced across the room, trying to process what I was hearing. So what does this mean? I asked. What happens now? Rachel folded her hands in her lap. It means this is my house now. And I've decided I want to live here alone. I'm giving you 2 weeks to pack your things and find somewhere else to go. The words hit me like a physical blow. You're kicking me out. I'm asking you to move out, Rachel corrected. There's a difference. This is my home, I said. My voice was rising. I couldn't help it. I grew up here. I've lived here my entire life. And now it's time for you to live somewhere else, Rachel said calmly. You're 24, Lucy. You're an adult. You should have moved out years ago. I stayed because Mom and Dad asked me to, I shot back. I stayed because you needed help. I stayed because this is my family. Rachel stood up. She crossed her arms. Well, now they're gone. And this isn't your family anymore. It's my house, my inheritance, my decision. You have 2 weeks. I felt tears burning in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not in front of her. Did you ever even care about me? I asked. All those years, all those times I gave things up for you, did any of it matter? Rachel's face softened slightly, but her voice stayed firm. I'm not the bad guy here, Lucy. I'm just doing what Mom and Dad wanted. If they'd wanted you to have part of the house, they would have put you in the will. They didn't. That's not my fault. If this story is resonating with you, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Your support means everything, and there's more to come. I left the room before I said something I'd regret. I went upstairs to my bedroom, my childhood bedroom, and closed the door. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the walls. The walls I'd painted when I was 15. The walls covered in photos and memories and pieces of my life. And I realized Rachel was right about one thing. This wasn't my home anymore. I called my aunt that night. The same aunt who'd found me in the kitchen at the funeral. Her name was Nyla, and she lived about an hour away. I told her what happened. I told her about the will, about Rachel's ultimatum, about being kicked out of the only home I'd ever known. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then she said, I'm coming over. You don't have to. I'm coming over, she repeated. Tomorrow morning. Don't leave before I get there. She hung up before I could argue. Nyla arrived at 10 the next morning. She knocked on the door, and Rachel answered. I was upstairs, but I could hear their voices in the entryway. Is Lucy here? Nyla asked. She's upstairs, Rachel said. Her tone was guarded. Why? I need to talk to her. And to you. I came down the stairs. Nyla looked at me, and her expression was a mixture of anger and sadness. She turned back to Rachel. Can we sit down? Nyla asked. Rachel led us into the living room. The same room where she told me I had to leave. We all sat down, and Nyla wasted no time. Lucy told me about the will, Nyla said. She told me you're making her leave. Rachel's jaw tightened. That's between me and Lucy. No, Nyla said firmly. It's not. Your father was my brother. This family is my family. And I'm not going to sit by and watch you treat Lucy like she doesn't belong. I'm not treating her badly, Rachel said. I'm just following what Mom and Dad wanted. They left the house to me. That's not my fault. Nyla leaned forward. Do you know why they left everything to you? Rachel blinked. Because I'm their daughter. Because you asked them to, Nyla said quietly. The room went silent. Rachel's face paled. What are you talking about? Nyla looked at me, then back at Rachel. Your father told me about it a few years ago. You went to them and said you were worried about your future. You said you didn't have savings, didn't have job security, didn't have a plan. You asked them to make sure you'd be taken care of if anything happened to them. And they agreed. Rachel's mouth opened, but no sound came out. They loved you, Nyla continued. They wanted to help you. But they assumed you'd take care of Lucy. They assumed you'd share the house, the money, everything. They assumed you'd be a family. They didn't put that in the will, Rachel said defensively. No, Nyla agreed. They didn't. Because they trusted you to do the right thing. They trusted you to take care of your sister. She's not my sister, Rachel snapped. Not really. Nyla's expression hardened. She's more your sister than you deserve. Rachel stood up. You don't get to come into my house and lecture me. This isn't your house yet, Nyla said calmly. The estate is still being settled. And I'm one of the executors, remember? I have a say in how this goes. Rachel froze. Nyla continued. Your parents set up a trust fund for Lucy years ago. It's not much, but it's enough for her to get started on her own. They wanted to make sure she'd be okay no matter what. But they also gave me specific instructions. If you ever treated Lucy unfairly, if you ever made her feel unwelcome, I was supposed to step in. Rachel sat back down slowly. What does that mean? It means I'm offering Lucy a choice, Nyla said. She looked at me. You can stay here and fight for your share of this house. You'd have a case. Adopted children have the same legal rights as biological children in the state. We could contest the will. We could drag this out in court for years. I felt my heart hammering in my chest. Or, Nyla continued, you can walk away. Take the trust fund. Come stay with me while you figure out your next steps. Start fresh somewhere that actually feels like home. I looked at Rachel. She was staring at the floor, her face tight with anger and shame. I thought about all the years I'd spent in this house. All the times I'd made myself smaller, quieter, less important so Rachel could shine. All the milestones I'd given up, all the dreams I'd postponed, all the pieces of myself I'd buried to keep the peace. And I realized I didn't want to fight for this anymore. I'll take the trust fund, I said. Nyla nodded. Okay. We'll start the paperwork this week. Rachel finally looked up. That's it? You're just going to leave? You told me to, I said. You gave me 2 weeks. I'm just doing what you asked. Rachel's face twisted with something I couldn't quite read. Guilt, maybe. Or anger. Or relief. Fine, she said. Fine. Take your money and go. I went upstairs and started packing that afternoon. I didn't have much. Clothes, books, a few boxes of personal items. I packed slowly, methodically, saying goodbye to each corner of the room as I emptied it. Nyla helped me carry boxes to her car. Rachel stayed in her room the entire time. She didn't come out to say goodbye. She didn't offer to help. She didn't apologize. When the car was loaded, I stood in the driveway and looked up at the house one last time. I'd learned to ride a bike in this driveway. I'd drawn chalk pictures on this concrete. I'd sat on these steps and waited for my parents to come home from work. But they weren't coming home anymore. And neither was I. I got in the car, and Nyla drove us away. The trust fund wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. $30,000. My parents had been saving for years, putting a little away each month. Enough for a security deposit on an apartment. Enough to cover expenses while I looked for a better job. Enough to start over. Nyla let me stay with her for 3 months while I got on my feet. She didn't charge me rent. She didn't ask for anything in return. She just gave me space to breathe and heal. I found a job at a marketing firm downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. I found a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. 1 bedroom, old hardwood floors, a kitchen window that let in morning light. It was mine. For the first time in my life, I had a space that was entirely mine. I bought my own furniture. I painted the walls. I hung my own pictures. I made my own rules. It was quiet. Calm. Safe. I didn't realize how much noise I'd been living in until it was gone. I didn't hear from Rachel for 4 months. Then one day, she called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. Hello? Lucy, it's me. Her voice sounded strange. Tight. Strained. What do you want, Rachel? I just wanted to check in, she said. See how you're doing. I didn't respond. I heard you got a new apartment, she continued. That's good. I'm glad you're settling in. Did you call just to make small talk? I asked. There was a pause. Then, I need to talk to you about something. I waited. The house is expensive to maintain, Rachel said. Property taxes, utilities, repairs, it's a lot more than I expected. I'm having trouble keeping up with it. I felt a cold pit form in my stomach. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to help out. Just for a few months. Until I get things under control. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want me to give you money? I'm not asking for charity, Rachel said quickly. I just thought, since it's the family home, you might want to contribute. Help keep it in the family. You kicked me out of that house, I said. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. You told me it wasn't my home anymore. You made it very clear that I wasn't part of your family. I didn't mean it like that, Rachel said. I was grieving. I wasn't thinking clearly. You gave me 2 weeks, Rachel. You told me I wasn't really your sister. You made me pack up my entire life and leave the only home I'd ever known. And now you want my help? Lucy, please. No, I said. No, Rachel. You made your choice. Now you live with it. I hung up. She called back 3 times. I didn't answer. 2 months later, Nyla told me Rachel was trying to sell the house. Apparently, she couldn't afford to keep it. The mortgage was paid off, but the taxes and upkeep were too much for her income. She'd listed it for sale, but the market was slow. It was sitting empty, costing her money every month. I felt a flicker of something, not quite satisfaction, not quite sadness. Just a strange, hollow vindication. Rachel called me again a few weeks after that. This time, her voice was different. Harder. Angrier. I know you're enjoying this, she said. Watching me struggle. I'm not watching you at all, Rachel, I said. I'm living my own life. You could help me, she said. You have money from the trust fund. You could help me save the house. Why would I do that? Because we're family, Rachel said. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. You told me I wasn't family, I said. You told me I didn't belong. You told me to leave. So I left. That was what you wanted. I made a mistake, Rachel said. Her voice cracked. Okay? I made a mistake. I was angry and hurt and I took it out on you. I'm sorry. I closed my eyes. I wanted to believe her. Part of me still wanted to fix things, to make it okay, to be the bigger person. But I'd spent my whole life being the bigger person. I'm sorry too, Rachel, I said. I'm sorry that Mom and Dad are gone. I'm sorry that you're struggling. I'm sorry that things turned out this way. But I'm not coming back. I'm not giving you money. I'm not saving the house. You made your choice, and I've made mine. You're really going to abandon me? Rachel asked. She sounded shocked, like she genuinely couldn't believe I'd say no. I'm not abandoning you, I said. I'm choosing myself. There's a difference. I hung up. She didn't call again. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps more than you know. A year passed. I got a promotion at work. I started taking art classes again, the thing I'd given up when I was 16. I made new friends. I went on dates. I built a life that was quiet and steady in mine. Nyla kept me updated on Rachel, even though I didn't ask. Rachel sold the house at a loss. She moved into a small apartment across town. She was working 2 jobs to make ends meet. She was struggling. I felt bad for her. I did. But I didn't reach out. I'd spent so many years trying to fix things for her, trying to make her life easier, trying to be what she needed. And it had never been enough. It had never made her treat me better. It had never made her see me as equal. I couldn't do it anymore. One afternoon, I was at a coffee shop near my apartment when I saw Rachel. She was sitting alone at a corner table, staring at her phone. She looked tired. Older. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she was wearing an old sweatshirt I recognized from high school. She looked up and saw me. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she stood up and walked over to my table. Lucy, she said. Rachel. Can I sit? I hesitated. Then I nodded. She sat down across from me. She didn't say anything for a long moment. She just looked at me, her expression unreadable. You look good, she finally said. Happy. I am, I said. She nodded slowly. I'm glad. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm not here to ask for anything, Rachel said. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. For real this time. Not because I need something from you, but because I mean it. I treated you terribly. I treated you like you didn't matter. And I was wrong. I studied her face. She looked sincere. But I'd learned not to trust appearances. Why now? I asked. Rachel sighed. Because I've had a lot of time to think. About Mom and Dad. About how they treated us. About how I treated you. And I realized something. She paused. I was jealous of you, she said quietly. My whole life, I was jealous. You were the easy one. The grateful one. You never complained, never demanded anything, never caused problems. Mom and Dad didn't have to worry about you. But me? I was always a mess. Always needing something, always falling apart. And I hated that. I hated that you made it look so easy. I blinked. I'd never heard Rachel talk like this before. So I made sure they focused on me, she continued. Every time you had something good, I'd create a crisis. I'd fall apart just enough that they'd have to choose between us. And they always chose me. Because I made them. My chest felt tight. And after they died, Rachel said, I took everything because I thought that's what I deserved. I thought I'd earned it by being the real daughter, the biological one. But all I did was prove that I was exactly what I'd always been afraid of, selfish and cruel and not worth their love. Tears were sliding down her face now. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And I'm sorry. I sat there, staring at my sister, my adopted sister, my childhood companion, my lifelong rival, and I felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness. Not quite. But something close to understanding. I appreciate you saying that, I said quietly. I do. But it doesn't change anything, Rachel. I can't go back to how things were. I can't keep making myself smaller so you can feel bigger. I can't keep giving up pieces of my life to make yours easier. I did that for too long. It nearly broke me. Rachel nodded. I know. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking if maybe, someday, we could try to be sisters again. Real sisters. The kind who actually care about each other. I thought about it. I thought about the years of resentment and pain. I thought about the house, the will, the 2 weeks she'd given me to pack up my life. But I also thought about the girl who'd shared a room with me when we were kids. The girl who'd taught me how to braid hair. The girl who'd stayed up late with me during thunderstorms because I was scared of the lightning. That girl was still in there somewhere. Buried under years of jealousy and favoritism and dysfunction. But still there. Maybe, I said. Someday. But not today. Rachel smiled sadly. That's fair. She stood up to leave. Then she paused. For what it's worth, she said, Mom and Dad did love you. I know I said they didn't. I know I tried to make you feel like you weren't really part of the family. But that wasn't true. They loved you. They just didn't know how to show it in a way that was fair to both of us. I nodded. I believed her. She walked out of the coffee shop, and I watched her go. I finished my coffee. I went home to my small apartment with the morning light in the kitchen. I made dinner for myself. I painted in my living room. I called Nyla and told her about running into Rachel. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt okay. Not happy, not sad. Just okay. I spent so much of my life trying to earn a place in my family. Trying to prove I was worth keeping. Trying to be grateful and easy and undemanding so they wouldn't regret choosing me. But I'd had it backwards the whole time. I didn't need to earn my place. I didn't need to prove my worth. I didn't need to shrink myself to fit into spaces that were never meant for me. I just needed to choose myself. And that's exactly what I did. It's been 3 years since my parents died. 3 years since Rachel kicked me out. 3 years since I started building a life that's actually mine. Rachel and I talk occasionally now. Carefully. Distantly. We're not close. We probably never will be. But we're civil. We're honest. We're trying, in our own broken way, to figure out what it means to be sisters without the weight of our parents' choices pressing down on us. Some days are harder than others. But I'm okay. I'm building something real. I'm learning who I am without the constant pressure to be less, to want less, to need less. And I'm learning that walking away isn't the same as giving up. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. So let me ask you this. Have you ever stayed somewhere, in a relationship, a job, a family dynamic, long ago after you should have left? Have you ever made yourself smaller to make someone else comfortable? And if you did, how did you find the strength to finally choose yourself? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If this story meant something to you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.